Oscar winners doing straight to DVD, child stars in psychiatric holds. One guy turned down Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. These actors had everything, and they blew it. Let's start with the biggest what-if in Hollywood history. Lindsay Lohan, the princess who lost her crown. Okay, we have to start with Lindsay Lohan because her story is genuinely one of the most devastating what-could-have-been situations in Hollywood history. Think about this. By age 18, she had starred in The Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, and Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. Studios weren't asking if she'd become a legend, they were asking how fast. Robert Altman, one of the greatest directors ever, cast her in A Prairie Home Companion and called her the best young actress since Jodie Foster. Let that sink in. Jodie Foster. She was getting scripts for romantic comedies, prestige dramas, superhero movies. Studios were literally fighting over her. But then, we all watched it happen in real time, didn't we? The partying, the tabloid covers, the arrests, the rehab stints. And we have to ask ourselves something uncomfortable here. How much of her downfall was her, and how much was an industry that sexualized a child star, paired her with problematic older men, and then acted shocked when she spiraled? Because here's what we don't talk about enough. Lindsay was working since she was 3. She never had a childhood. She had a manager for a mother and chaos for a family life. And Hollywood? Hollywood exploited every second of it. Now, is she making a comeback with that Netflix Christmas movie and the new Freaky Friday sequel? Maybe, but we lost 20 years of what should have been an iconic career. That's not just a missed opportunity, that's a tragedy. But at least Lindsay's story has some hope. Our next actor? His story is somehow even more heartbreaking. Edward Furlong, from Terminator to Terminated. Okay, be honest. How many of us even remember Edward Furlong at this point? Because in 1991, this kid walked onto the set of Terminator 2. Judgment Day with 0 acting experience and absolutely stole scenes from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was 13 years old. 13! Then he did American History X opposite Edward Norton and proved T2 wasn't a fluke. Critics were calling him one of the most naturally talented actors of his generation. And then, silence. What happened to Edward Furlong is one of Hollywood's darkest open secrets. He struggled with substance abuse for decades, legal troubles, personal issues. By the mid-2000s, he'd completely fallen off the map. When they made Terminator: Dark Fate in 2019, they had to digitally recreate his teenage face because the real Edward Furlong was so far removed from that kid we remembered. And we have to talk about the elephant in the room here. He was a child when Hollywood got its hands on him. His first relationship was with his adult tutor on the T2 set, something that would be immediately recognized as predatory today. The industry failed him before he even had a chance. Another child star destroyed by a system that treats kids like commodities. But you know what? At least we can point to external factors for Lindsay and Edward. Our next actor? He had everything and just walked away. Josh Hartnett, the star who said no thanks. Okay, Josh Hartnett is different from everyone else on this list because he didn't self-destruct. He didn't get canceled. He didn't have a scandal. He just left. In the early 2000s, Josh Hartnett was being positioned as the next big thing. Pearl Harbor, Black Hawk Down, The Faculty. Hollywood was throwing blockbusters at him like confetti. And then they offered him Superman. He said no. They offered him Batman. He said no. They offered him Spider-Man. He said no. We need to pause here because, what? This man turned down 3 of the biggest superhero franchises in history. Any one of those would have made him a household name for decades. So what happened? In his own words, he got overwhelmed. The fame, the pressure, the paparazzi, it was destroying him. He's talked about having panic attacks, about feeling like he was losing himself, about the machine chewing him up. So he moved to Minnesota, started doing indie films, disappeared from the spotlight entirely. And here's the thing, is this really blowing it? Or is this the smartest decision anyone on this list made? Because Josh Hartnett is still working. He was just in Oppenheimer, one of the biggest movies of the decade. He's got a family. He seems genuinely happy. Maybe he didn't blow his shot at being a legend. Maybe he just decided being a legend wasn't worth his sanity. But not everyone gets to make that choice. Some people have their choices made for them. Cuba Gooding Jr. Show me the direct-to-DVD, show me the money. In 1997, Cuba Gooding Jr. won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and gave one of the most memorable acceptance speeches in Oscar history. He was 29 years old. The world was his. So why, and we genuinely want to know, did this man make 50 direct-to-video movies in the next 2 decades? We're not exaggerating. After Jerry Maguire, his filmography reads like a parody. Snow Dogs, Boat Trip, Daddy Day Camp, and then an endless stream of titles we've literally never heard of, released straight to Walmart DVD bins. What happened? Some say he just made bad choices, picked the wrong projects. Others say Hollywood never really embraced him the way they did other Oscar winners. The systemic barriers Black actors faced in the late 90s and 2000s shouldn't be ignored here. But there's another part of this story we need to address: the allegations. Multiple assault allegations against Cuba Gooding Jr. came to light in the 2020s, which, let's just say, cast his career trajectory in a different light. His story went from Oscar winner who made confusing choices to something much more complicated and much darker. Speaking of dark, Armie Hammer. When dark secrets surface. Okay, we need to talk about Armie Hammer, because this one is different. This isn't about bad choices or burning bridges or walking away. This is about allegations so disturbing that his entire career evaporated overnight. Let's set the scene. Early 2020, Armie Hammer is everywhere. Call Me by Your Name got him Oscar buzz. He's filming with Jennifer Lopez. He's been announced for upcoming blockbusters. He's 6 feet 5 inches, ridiculously handsome, from a wealthy dynasty. He's Hollywood's ideal leading man. Then the message is leaked. We're not going to go into detail here because honestly, it's too disturbing. But allegations of emotional abuse, disturbing fantasies, and manipulative behavior came flooding out from multiple women. Within weeks, he was dropped from every project. Agencies cut ties. The Lois and Clark remake? Gone. The Jennifer Lopez movie? Recast. His career wasn't just over, it was erased. And the wildest part? His family's history started coming out too. The Hammer dynasty is basically an American horror story. Oil money, Soviet deals, disappearances, and dysfunction going back generations. Last we heard, Armie Hammer was selling timeshares in the Cayman Islands. From Oscar contender to timeshare salesman. That's not career suicide, that's career annihilation. All right, we need to lighten up slightly. Let's talk about someone whose biggest crime was just being in Twilight. Taylor Lautner, trapped in Twilight forever. And here's the thing about Taylor Lautner. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't burn bridges. He didn't have a scandal. He didn't spiral. He just got typecast so hard that Hollywood literally didn't know what to do with him. During Twilight's peak, Taylor Lautner was one of the most famous people on earth. Teen magazines, red carpets. He was getting paid millions. He was everywhere. But here's the problem. All anyone could see was Jacob Black and those abs. Studios tried to make him an action star with Abduction. It bombed. They tried him in comedies. Didn't work. The roles dried up because nobody could separate Taylor Lautner from the shirtless werewolf. And we have to compare this to his co-star. Robert Pattinson played the lead vampire, was even more associated with Twilight, and somehow clawed his way out. How? By being aggressively weird, by taking strange indie roles, by basically telling everyone how much he hated Twilight until people forgot about it. Taylor didn't do that. He stayed safe, and safe got him forgotten. Now he's married to a nurse, living a normal life, occasionally popping up on his wife's TikToks. And honestly, he seems happy. But happy and normal is very different from legend. Not everyone who blows it does so dramatically. Sometimes you just fade away. But you know who didn't fade away quietly? The man who was silenced. Brendan Fraser. Blacklisted for speaking up. Okay, Brendan Fraser is technically a redemption story, and thank God for that. But we need to talk about why he needed redemption in the first place. Because what happened to Brendan Fraser is one of the most infuriating examples of Hollywood's ugly side. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Brendan Fraser was a movie star in the truest sense. The Mummy trilogy, George of the Jungle, Bedazzled. He had range, he had charisma, he had box office appeal. He was the guy. And then he vanished. For years, people made jokes. "Where's Brendan Fraser?" became an internet meme. We all assumed he'd just fallen off, made bad choices, whatever. Then in 2018, he told GQ the truth. Brendan Fraser alleged that Philip Burke, the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the people who run the Golden Globes, sexually assaulted him at a 2003 event. And when Fraser spoke up, he was blacklisted. Let that sink in. He reported assault by one of the most powerful people in Hollywood awards, and they ended his career. He also went through a brutal divorce, serious injuries from doing his own stunts, and depression. The man was dealing with trauma on multiple fronts while Hollywood shut him out. But here's the beautiful part. He came back. The Whale won him an Oscar. And watching him cry at that podium, knowing everything he went through, was one of the most cathartic moments in recent award show history. Brendan Fraser didn't blow it. He was pushed out. And he still climbed back. Not everyone gets that chance, though. Let's talk about child stars who weren't so lucky. Macaulay Culkin. The price of being Kevin McAllister. If we're talking about child stars who could have been legends, we have to talk about Macaulay Culkin. Because at one point, this kid wasn't just famous. He was the most famous child on the planet. Home Alone made over $476 million in 1990. That's like $1.2 billion today. Macaulay Culkin at 10 years old was the highest paid child actor in history, making $8 million per movie. Studios were fighting over him. He was best friends with Michael Jackson. He was on the cover of everything. The trajectory was absolutely insane. And then, it all fell apart. First, the parents. His father, Kit Culkin, was by all accounts a nightmare stage parent, controlling, demanding, and eventually accused of being emotionally abusive. His parents' divorce became a brutal public battle over Macaulay's earnings. Then came the burnout. By 14, Macaulay Culkin essentially retired. He'd been working since he was 4. He never had a childhood. He had a career. What followed was rough, substance issues, that 2004 arrest, a marriage at 17 that lasted 2 years. He spent his 20s looking haunted. We all saw those photos. We all made jokes. The internet turned him into a cautionary tale. But here's what's wild. Macaulay Culkin has talked openly about all of it. He said Hollywood didn't destroy him. His family did. The industry was just the weapon his father used. He's in a better place now. Dating Brenda Song, started a podcast, seems genuinely at peace. But legend? The kind of career he could have had if he'd been protected? That ship sailed a long time ago. And if you think Macaulay's story is dark, wait until we talk about Nickelodeon's biggest star. Amanda Bynes, Nickelodeon's darkest story. Amanda Bynes was supposed to be the next big comedy star. And honestly, she had the talent to back it up. All that, The Amanda Show. What I like about you? She's the man, which by the way, still holds up. This girl had comedic timing that most actors never develop. By her early 20s, she was successfully transitioning to movies. Hairspray, Easy A. The path to becoming a comedy A-lister was right there. And then, around 2012, something changed. Shift tone becomes careful, compassionate. The tweets started getting strange. The behavior became erratic. There was a DUI, then another. Then she was setting fires in driveways. Then the psychiatric holds. What we watched happen to Amanda Bynes wasn't a scandal. It was a mental health crisis playing out in public, and we, all of us, watched it like entertainment. She's since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She's talked about the medication she was on, the substances she was using, and how nobody around her was helping. They were just profiting. And we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the allegations about Dan Schneider and the environment at Nickelodeon that's only recently come to light. When Amanda started speaking up about what happened to her, people dismissed her as crazy. Now, we're starting to realize she might have been trying to tell us something the whole time. Amanda Bynes is currently under a conservatorship. She's been in and out of treatment. The woman who made us laugh every Saturday night is fighting a battle most of us can't imagine. This isn't a blew it story. This is a the system failed her story. Speaking of systems failing people, Ezra Miller, the Flash who burned out. Ezra Miller in 2012 was being hailed as one of the most exciting young actors in Hollywood. The perks of being a wallflower showed real dramatic talent. Casting directors were obsessed with their unique screen presence. DC gave them The Flash. Warner Brothers saw franchise potential. The trajectory was straight up. And then 2022 happened. Arrests in Hawaii, allegations of grooming minors, accusations of running a cult-like environment, protective orders, felony charges, an apparent mental health crisis playing out in public. This wasn't a scandal. This was a complete unraveling. Warner Brothers was in an impossible position. They had a $200 million Flash movie starring someone generating headlines about endangered children. They couldn't reshoot, they couldn't shelve it. They just had to release it and hope people forgot. The movie underperformed. Ezra Miller essentially disappeared, and we're left wondering what happened to that talented kid from Perks of Being a Wallflower. Mental health is complicated. We're not here to diagnose anyone, but we can say this. Whatever support system should have been in place clearly wasn't, and now another young career is in ruins. But speaking of complicated, let's talk about someone who's openly admitted he did this to himself. Shia LaBeouf. Genius or self-saboteur? Shia LaBeouf might be the most confusing person on this entire list, because here's someone with undeniable talent. Even Stevens, Transformers, Honey Boy, Pieces of a Woman, who seemed to actively sabotage himself at every turn. The plagiarism scandal, the paper bag at the premiere, the I am not famous anymore performance art, the arrest in Georgia, the arrest in New York, the public intoxication, the fights, the erratic behavior. For a while, we wrote it off as method acting, or artistic expression, or celebrity weird. Then FKA Twigs sued him for abuse, and suddenly all that erratic behavior looked very different. Shia publicly acknowledged his alcoholism. He converted to Catholicism. He's been doing press talking about his recovery. Is it genuine? Is it reputation rehabilitation? We genuinely don't know. What we do know is this. Shia LaBeouf had every opportunity: Disney Channel stardom, Spielberg's hand-picked action lead, critical acclaim for indie work, and he burned through all of it. He's one of the only people on this list who's openly admitted, I did this to myself. But is self-awareness enough to come back? We're still waiting to find out. So where does this leave us? We've talked about child stars destroyed by the industry, about talented people who self-destructed, about people who just walked away, about allegations so disturbing they ended careers overnight, about blacklisting and bias and bad luck. Can anyone come back from this? Brendan Fraser proved you can. Lindsay Lohan is trying. Robert Downey Jr. became the biggest movie star on the planet after rehab and arrests. Josh Hartnett just showed up in Oppenheimer like nothing happened. But for every comeback, there are dozens who never recovered. Edward Furlong, Taylor Lautner, Amanda Bynes, Cuba Gooding Jr., people whose names we barely remember, or remember for all the wrong reasons. And maybe that's the scariest part. In Hollywood, you don't have to do something terrible to lose everything. Sometimes you just have to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes you're a child who never had anyone protecting you. Sometimes you're just forgotten. We want to know, which actor on this list do you think got the worst deal? Who deserves another shot? And who did we miss? Drop it in the comments, and if we made it this far together, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because we've got a lot more deep dives coming. Until next time.